What's that? Who there? Whoa.
You're the first person that's going to go through this, and I'm really excited about this kind of brainstorming session. So the first question before we get into like a couple ideas specifically for different businesses, just macro level emerging trends. So what are different things? It could be in wellness or outside, different things you've come across that you think in the next, 2 to 3 years are going to really pop off. What are some of those for you?
Mushrooms. I think functional mushrooms are so interesting and fascinating, like the world of mycelium, and highly recommended documentary called Fantastic Fungi, and have experimented with just like, the functional mushrooms that you can put in your coffee and supplements. And I think they're just really powerful. And I think more broadly, like the world of botanicals, as the Nutrafol guy was saying, and like just herbs, and that becoming like less of a crapshoot and more of like scientific backing behind these things. I think plants are really cool. I think I want to listen to that podcast you did with the Sill, but I think just like more and more people are understanding that like your environment, especially as we're working from home, like impacts how you think and how you feel, and surrounding yourself with more nature is critical and important. I think the world of connected fitness is fascinating. It's been really exciting and interesting to see all these companies sort of like follow the Peloton craze and do things for strength training and for rowing, for other components of wellness. I personally been using the Peloton app for like strength training and HIIT workouts, and really enjoy it. You can get like a great workout in 20 minutes. Something I haven't spoken about a lot, but I think is interesting is we saw in food, we saw big companies like Coca-Cola and Pepsi and McDonald's and Unilever and Procter and Gamble and General Mills sort of own the food market, and because people were looking for convenience and speed. And I think and then there's this like explosion of all these health food companies that were now taking like different parts of like making chips healthier, doing this. And it's hard to make the analogy, but I think the same thing has happened in tech, where you have the Apples, the Facebook, the Netflix, these large companies that people have traded their data for speed and convenience. And now you're going to see this bubbling up of companies that are hitting specific parts of either the productivity category or the social category, and are going to do it in a way where you don't need to trade them your data, but you'll actually pay for these products and use them, and they'll actually like add value to your life instead of like stealing information. So that's a little bit more esoteric, but I also think that's an interesting sort of trend that I've been thinking about.
Yeah. All right. Would love that. Okay. So let's get into the brainstorm. So if you had to start a new business in a new category, not JOON, what's kind of the one idea, your best idea in your mind that's most exciting to you right now?
Okay, but if anyone follows this, they have to like hit me up for an angel investment or
you go, in the DMs.
Some sort of collaboration. I think I went from years of not eating bread to sort of like being obsessed and loving bread, like good, healthy, like quality bread. And I've seen the trend of ghost kitchens and what you can do with, basically building like a digitally native restaurant and brand. And I think like the idea of like a weekly or monthly bread basket could be really interesting. It's a perishable item. People our age are probably paying like $10 to $12 a loaf when they go to a grocery store for a better loaf of bread. And I think you can surround the bread. It's monthly recurring or weekly recurring revenue. It's a subscription business, membership business. And then you can support the bread with other CPG items, with other specialty items. So you look at something like what Imperfect Produce or Misfits Market has done in the food space, and I think someone can definitely do that around bread. I don't know if you know or if you're familiar with brands like Tartine or Lodge Bread in LA, or there's one more. Justa is the big one in LA. Like building, what would it look like to build a digital version of that brand, on you know in today's
Yeah,
world?
that's fascinating. So I love so obviously subscription model is really interesting to apply to something like that. Um, from a ghost kitchen perspective, like how I know Mr. Beast showed how he could spin up 300 restaurants all across the country, but how easy or hard do you feel like it would be for this company to be able to tap in? Do you think it'd have to be like a regional specific model first and really test that out? Are you like tapping, would the ghost kitchens be just bakeries that you bring online?
Yeah, and I don't know too much about, like, we have a friend who's an investor operator in New York, who just started a coffee company, and he was saying something like, ghost kitchens are where it's at. You could start a brand and ghost kitchen company for under 50K. I think you would definitely have to start regional. It's with a company like this, and we've seen like a lot of companies in like the food delivery, meal kit space do start regionally. I think you would really need like a good bakery, or you could even like sub it out and have one of these bakeries like do it for you if you wanted just an MVP and like just build the brand, and then probably have to partner, um, either partner or just like start up an Instagram and just like start really lean. Like I've seen a ton of friends in the COVID time like start creative chocolate creating kits and other DIY and like delivery, like, uh, there's a Persian rice dish called tadig. I think there's a girl that's doing like a tadig delivery. There's a lot, I think, in that world. Do you buy anything like weekly or monthly in terms of like a food product?
So we just started actually this week. Have you heard of Factor 75?
No.
So the problem we were running into is like my girlfriend and I will work all day and then we'll try to get a workout in. But after that, like we don't really want to spend 30 minutes cooking. Like we want healthy, we eat really healthy, but we kind of want the food to be there. We don't really love meal prepping because then you're eating like 3-day old leftovers and it's just not the same. So Factor 75 is a commercial kitchen. It started a few years ago and they make like healthy meals prepackaged. You get them delivered once a week and then you've got, 4 dinners each, and it's effectively like a TV dinner that's healthy and delivered fresh for you. And then you pop in the oven for 5 minutes and it's good. And so we just started doing that. It's kind of a keto focused company. Like they've got paleo, dairy free, like they've got different filters, but the majority of the meals are pretty keto forward. So it's interesting. Wow. The meals are like $9 a pop though. So I don't know how their unit economics are working because we paid like 60 or $70 for 8 meals and they had to deliver it in a 15-pound box with ice packs. So I don't know. I don't know how
Yeah,
they're
yeah, a
making
lot
money.
of these companies don't understand. I really like, Daily Harvest is a client of ours and we did a partnership with them. I like it. It's plant-based. I like it because it's like insurance. You put it in your freezer and you don't need to use it. It's like you could think of like the Trader Joe's frozen section, but all healthy, and you don't need to like really worry about what kind of oils and things are in there. Um, Recently did a founder series with the CEO of Territory Foods, and really loved trying that product and experience. Like something they do that's really cool is they partner with local chefs and restaurants. So you get this like box, but one of the meals is coming from Cafe Gratitude, and another meal is coming from this like paleo chef. So if you're interested in that world, that could be one to try.
That's super interesting. I feel like as we talk about it would be awesome to have like, you know, artisanal might not be the right word, but like custom bread come from one source, artisanal chocolate, you've got homemade pasta, like all these different, I think what's interesting
Exactly.
is we go to the grocery store just because it's the only option with consolidated food. But what happens if you can get the best of every type of food that comes to you direct, and it's really not that much more expensive? That's really compelling.
Yeah. Think of like if Italy was a virtual or ghost restaurant, and you had one main item at the core that was coming to you weekly or monthly, let's say pasta, and then on the sides you had jams and different sort of like pickles and stuff. I know it's a very like privileged type luxurious box, but I don't know. I think there's something to it, and maybe if you're listening out there, Mr. Baker, hit us up. We'd love to get involved.
There's some baker out there that's just throwing bread in the oven like, all right, I'm in, let's go. What do you think are the pitfalls of cloud kitchens, other than, I guess, quality control is like the big one you saw with the Mr. Beast experiment? And maybe there aren't any, but I know the model's so new. Most people don't even realize what's happening.
I hadn't heard of. I think my problem with it has always been, or problem or thoughts around it without really understanding it, is just like the unit economics of delivery and how much of delivery is actually being subsidized by venture capital, and not really understanding the true cost of delivery, because it's like that's a complete that's a logistics play. And I think the Ubers of the world, the DoorDashes of the world have probably done it long enough where they understand how to do it right. But when you have a perishable food item and you have, there's probably other technology companies that have made it easier to do, but that's like the one that it perplexes me the most.
What's interesting is I feel like once the infrastructure is there from the food perspective, the delivery problem will eventually go away once you have autonomous vehicles, right? Because the cost of the delivery is really the driver's time. But once you have a fleet of cars that don't need drivers, you can just pop that whatever bread in and into the vehicle, and it will drive whatever. And you're only paying for vehicle maintenance and gas. So it's actually really compelling that like this would be the time, if you were trying to do this, to get the infrastructure set up, get your commercial kitchen or your cloud kitchens ready. Because in 5 years or 3 years, once the vehicles are ready, the unit economics will completely change.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I also think a lot about like food deserts and going to like convenience stores around the world, and just like looking at like what products would I actually eat there, and seeing the fact that I wouldn't touch 99% of the products, other than like water and nuts, as a huge opportunity in terms of how do you create better snacks and things that people can eat on the fly, that are not so bad for you. That's something else that I think about a lot. It kind of comes back to my food roots. Another
idea, and then I'll let you go. I feel like we could brainstorm for hours, but another idea I think is really interesting and I'm curious about is, in grocery stores, you obviously have the non-perishables. Those probably should sit on shelves forever. But what happens to the perishable items when they are about to expire? I imagine they donate some, but like there's got to be some that gets wasted, right, and gets thrown away. Is there like a model where you can deliver that at a discount to someone who needs a meal like today, right? Like, is there a marketplace for that?
I think there's some products and companies that have tried to. There's a lot of regulation around that. So I know that that's where some companies get stuck, and different grocery stores have different partnerships. If you found a way to formalize it, that could be cool. There's a company called Food Forward in LA, a nonprofit that was doing that at farmers markets, with different farmers, getting them to donate. But yeah, there's definitely like, we make enough food to feed everyone healthy food. It really, a lot of it comes down to like, how is it delivered, and how is the system distributing food in a way where there's not so much waste. There's a cool company out of Santa Barbara that I almost worked for coming out of college, called Apeel, Apeel. And since they started, they've gotten like a ton of money from like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and they've raised a lot of venture capital, and they essentially created this natural preservative that they would actually make out of like the peel of the product that they would then spray, and they would extend the shelf life, because in some countries like continents like Africa and different parts of these countries, a lot of these farmers don't even have refrigerators, so they'll like spend X amount of time getting this food, getting it ready, and then like they're forced to like just like their whole harvest goes to waste. So even extending the shelf life by like a week or so gives them an opportunity like to make a living.